Hello, my name's Lynne Chapman and I'm an author and an illustrator of children's picture books. And today I'd like to show you how to draw children, specifically their faces, and then how I adapt those naturalistic kinds of proportions to create the sort of characterisation that's suitable for a children's picture book. The face of a child is rounder than the face of an adult, but it's still not completely round, so a good starting shape is sort of an oval, a bit like that. And if we draw a line along the top of the head and the bottom of the chin, the eyes are generally speaking going to be about halfway down. I'll just pop them there, not too close together. And the mouth, although this varies in individuals, the mouth's not far off, halfway between those bottom two, and the nose somewhere between. So the midpoint of a child's mouth, it's not a straight line. It tends to have quite an exaggerated dip in the middle there, like that. And they have reasonably full lips, and the upper lip is usually going to be in shadow because naturally light is from above, and also artificial light, largely speaking. Okay, so let's sort of put some shape into these eyes. Children have quite big irises, and the bottom part of the eye isn't going to be as round, it's more flattened than the top there. So there we go, let's give it a feel for it. Let's get the nose in, so it's just above the mouth, not quite halfway between. And children have quite cute little button noses, don't they? So you don't have any sort of major lines here. What you can usually do is just create a sense of shadow like that. You can make the eyes far more realistic by putting just a little shadow there. Eyebrows, quite minimal on a child. So you want something quite light and understated. And everybody normally has an area of shadow under there. Okay? Now, let's just shape this slightly more. Get sort of a sense of slight flattening there, slight rounding of the cheeks. Now, obviously, all children's faces are slightly different, so this is just generic. Just gives you an idea. Ears start roughly around the point where the eyes start here. And children's ears, again, are quite small, so they don't go too far. They don't go as far down as the mouth. And then just sort of suggestion of hair starts to make it look a bit more realistic. There we go. And the neck doesn't want to be as wide here as the face, but it doesn't want to be too narrow either. It's only just in from the edges of the cheeks. Maybe that's still a bit too wide. There we go. Something about that. So that gives you the rough proportions of a face from the front. However, I think sometimes that's quite a boring way to draw a face. I think a profile can be far more interesting. And I would usually, if I'm trying to sketch something from my imagination rather from life, I would start a profile very differently. I would start with a shape a bit like that, sort of like an oval on its side, and that represents the top of the head. Almost like the brain, if you like. And then the face section is like another rounded shape that's slung underneath that. So about like that. And the neck, there's a sort of a rounding on the back of the head, and the neck then comes out here, not just from the back. And a slight rounding under the chin. So it's coming out diagonally, interestingly, rather than straight. That's much more natural. The ear is above the jawbone, so it's somewhere around there. And the nose is going to be about here. And again, children have quite cute little turned up noses, so you don't want it to be too big. So you can start to see what we're doing. The eye is going to be in from the edge and roughly at the bottom of this top shape here. And that sort of sideways V is quite a good way to get the basics for an eye on this in profile. Now, a mouth is not just a smile drawn in the side. It actually is quite three-dimensional. So, particularly on a child, that swings out, that top lip, and then the bottom lip comes down and in, and then just slightly rounded for the chin. There we go. That's probably quite big for the nose, actually. And again, it varies. Sometimes children's foreheads swing right in like that and have quite a proud forehead here. Let's put that little bit under the eye that we added earlier, around there. And again, once you get the hair put in, you can really start to see how that shape works. I'll make that neck slightly wider there. And you know, any kind of collar would be here. So that is not going to work as a drawing of every child, obviously. But if you're drawing a child from your imagination, you can then make variations on that theme, but the basic shapes are in the right place. However, when I'm creating an illustration of a child for a children's picture book, I don't want realistic proportions. For instance, that's a piece of artwork from a book I'm working on right at the moment. I've literally just produced that. It's called Swap, and it has this little character here, Lucy. As you can see, the first obvious thing is her eyes are in completely the wrong place from what we were just talking about. They're right at the top. But that's fine. When you're doing an illustration, part of adding character and individuality to your drawings is about playing around with proportions. So I'm just going to show you something. If we start with our face shape, and actually that's a good place to start, because the one I drew was quite oval. It was originally that shape, wasn't it? Sometimes I draw illustrations with quite round shapes. Actually, Lucy is completely the other way. She's actually more that way round. The lozenge is sideways. And her eyes, instead of being in the middle, are right up here. They actually come out the top of her head, almost like a frog, if you like. Give her a little smile here. Now, where you put the nose is going to make an enormous difference to the character. For Lucy, the nose is kind of about here, and the ears stick straight out of the side here. And then she's got her hair this way. She had a bow on her head in that other illustration, didn't she? Tiny weeny neck on my children's illustrations. And the bodies are very much smaller than they would be. I know we're talking more about faces at the moment, just as a matter of principle. That works much better. That skirt's way too long, there we go. For my work, than a realistically proportioned body. But it's quite interesting, where you put the eyes and the nose and the mouth creates an enormous difference in personality. So let's go back to that more normal shape. Let's put some eyes at the top. If you put the nose down here, look how different that is. So if you put the nose, let's do it from that side so you can see, up there. Two completely different characters. If you put the eyes in the middle, that's different again. Let's put some ears on so as you can see a bit more what that looks like. So that, compared to my other drawing that I did, completely different, just by moving the eyes halfway down. If you move the eyes closer together, that also has another effect. Let's do Lucy again. Let's do that sideways lozenge. Put her little ears on the side there now. smile, nose. So I had her originally with her eyes kind of there. Let's put her eyes really close together. That's really different again. So when I'm designing a character, what I do is usually just start with a circle and play around with these different proportions and see what I get, really. And you can do that too. It's very easy and it's amazing.